All right, so hi, my name is Eric Bear, and I am here from Holochain. I am very non-technical, but I'm marginally conceptual and hopefully like a smidgen fun. One thing I have a concern about is because I don't normally present in depth about Holochain, is that in a place in my presentation where I might have ignorance, that you would relate my ignorance or my misrepresentation of a piece that is technical, if you are more technical than me, to the project without going and doing your own research, because it has like 10 years of in-depth work on it and a large and constantly building code base. So if you get to a point where you're like, that sounds stupid, that's probably just me and not the project. Okay, cool. So I want to ask a couple questions. Raise your hand if you came here because you're interested in Holochain tonight. Like that was your primary motivation. Okay. And then raise your hand if you're familiar with Holochain. Actually, forget the hand raise. I want to do a little upgrade. This is, I know about Holochain very well. And this is, I know nothing of Holochain. But you still got to hold it head level so that everyone else can see. And so where are you on that spectrum? I know a lot about it. I know very little. Okay, so it's an appropriate conversation for tonight. Great, thank you. And then raise your hand if you're really technical. Hold them high if you can. Everyone else can look around so you can get a sense of yourselves and each other. Raise your hand if you're an entrepreneur. Okay, raise your hand if you're other, like me. All right, great. Got a handful of us. All right, cool. So let's get into Holochain. Does anyone have any questions that are really burning to have answered over the course of this that I can make sure I like hit before it ends? No? Really? Okay. All right, so Holochain is a new way of running truly peer-to-peer applications. Holochain applications run entirely on the devices that the users that are using themselves, right? So you can run a Holochain app eventually on your phone. Can't do it yet. And Holochain applications require no web servers, they require no mining, and they require no cryptocurrency. You can build those things on them. I don't know why you would want to build mining if you don't need it, but you could if you wanted to for fun. And this is really important. I want to emphasize the no cryptocurrency. It's an easy thing to get confused with because we have HOT, right? And we have Holochain. Those two things are separate. You can build another currency on top of Holochain if you want to. Okay, and we already have people that are doing that. Holochain is a framework, an open source framework for building dApps. So yeah, okay. So that you can offset your own use. The way it works is that you offset your own use of a Holochain app by storing, validating, and serving content on the network that app that you're playing with other people on with that app. Okay. So Holochain is a pattern and not a platform. Okay. That goes back to the framework thing. That's like the difference between JavaScript and what's the thing where you build the websites? You like plug the pieces of the websites in? What? No, like the Squarespace. That's a platform. Yeah. Or like, what's it called? Like blockchain is a platform, right? So there's no one big holochain. Like there's a big blockchain. There's no one big holochain. There are many holochains. And each app is its own separate social space. So on the Ethereum network, where anyone does something, Andre was making a point earlier about the hot token gets really busy, and that's going to clog up the other tokens because they're on the same network. It would not work that way on Holochain. A Holochain app would be each app is its own social space, its own community. Okay, so and in each social space, members play by a shared set of rules. That's the app. The app's DNA is what we call it. So we're solving for we have this structure because we're solving for a different problem than the problem that blockchain is solving. When the blockchain is trying to solve the problem for digital anonymous cash, okay, it came out of the cypherpunk community, right? And then Bitcoin came out of that. Okay, so we have a different goal. We're not looking to create digital anonymous cash for trustless interactions, right? We're trying to foster more effective, adaptable, and vibrant communities. It's much more ooey gooey, heart spacey. Being honest, yeah. So, but still pretty practical. So blockchain is focused on transcending relationships. Like I don't need to know you and you don't need to know me in order for us to have a transaction and for us to be totally safe. You know what I mean? And we can go our separate ways, and that was okay, right? But that's not going to like lead to any real development of any actual changes in the world or any changes in how we treat each other and changes how we treat money and finance. And it's not going to lead to the actual goals that are the premise for creating cryptocurrencies, right? It's not about being able to not know anything about each other so we can do a better job of buying porn and drugs. It's about like, how do we create stable systems for exchanging value so that we can create new ways to exchange value to change the way people relate to each other and change the way things work in the world for the better, right? So Holochain is focused on fostering relationships, okay? So we have a different goal, and a different goal means we have a different architecture. So to create a P2P application framework, we've combined tech from three established projects. This is an oversimplification. And those are tamper-resistant logs from blockchain, efficient shared storage from BitTorrent, and agent-centric identity from Git, okay? So how a Holochain app works is a user installs the app on their device, all right? And then that app is composed of 4 different parts. Identical rules with every other device that's running that Holochain app. And if someone changes the rules on their app, they're no longer playing the same game. They are leaving that network, okay? So by cheating in that way, you're quitting the game, right? Because I can see your rules and my rules, and I can compare them when you and I interact on this application. And then if we're playing by the same game, we know we're playing the same game. If we're not, then we're not playing. Okay, so your data is on your device, and it is backed up on others' devices. Okay, so identical rules means every user of an app plays by the exact same rules. I explained that already some. An example of this is Twitter with 140 character max tweet. So only users with an invite code. Oh, so this is, I'm supposed to go into more depth here because it has notes on my thingy. Oh, yeah, okay. So then you could set this up where anyone can join the app, and you could set it up where only users with an invite code can join the app. And this goes back to, say, if I have an invite code that's part of my rules like prove that I joined the app through an invite code, and you join the app without an invite code, and we tried playing with each other, my app would just reject it, right, outright. And if you had the invite code, then we could play together. So why identical rules is that this is more, does everyone kind of get that well enough, or should I keep more explainy? Some responsive. Keep going? Keep going? Keep going? Okay. Okay, so that's a good example. Okay. So the rule enforcement in a card game, let's say we're playing poker. And raise your hand if you've ever played poker. Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever played poker and someone cheated. Even playfully, it counts. Okay, more hands go up. When you're playing poker, everyone around the table knows the game that they're playing. Everyone knows the rules of poker. You're not like, if you break the rules, then 2 things happen. Okay. Shit. This is like further back this way. Someone notifies others and they take action. So if you take a card when you're not supposed to take a card, it's not your turn. I'm going to say, "Ooh, what's your name?" Praveen. I'm going to say, "Praveen, you can't do that. Don't do that." I've done 2 things. I've called you out, right? I've taken an action, and I've notified others. Now, everyone else is going to be watching. If you're doing that again, maybe you did it by accident. Maybe you did it on purpose. If you do it again, then someone else is going to say, "Don't do that." Yeah, like Praveen, don't do that, right? So now you have the group is actually aware of it and taking action. So we call this an immune system response. And that's actually how immune systems work in our body. There's a cooler example that I like more, but that we don't use as much, with white blood cells, and how the body reacts when there's a problem is it takes care of the problem until the problem's not there anymore. And then it just doesn't deal with it anymore because it's not a problem anymore. So Holochain apps are designed, or Holochain is built so that you build apps with an immune system. And you think about creating security in your application and your network through whatever parameters you need in order for those interactions to be secure. So every action you take, so authorship is a really important point, is every action you take is cryptographically signed by your device. So it's, I am doing this every time you do something. And it's the same problem with anything where you deal with passwords and key management, is someone can pretend to be you, right? But so we haven't like fully solved that problem. We're working on it, but it's just another big problem. But it's a way to say, this is me and I'm playing this game. I want to see if there's more stuff I should get into there. Yeah, it's just everyone has your private key, public key. And then it's how much work does my phone have to do to run an app, right? So like, let's bring it down and make it practical. Is this something that you could actually do? Like, you're not going to run like CryptoKitties like crashed real bad, like everything, right? So like, how scalable is this really? So we'll take the example of a peer-to-peer Twitter. 140 character tweets will be our limit for this example. And let's assume that our app is really, really ridiculously popular and 7.7 billion participants, every human being on the planet is tweeting, which would be just the saddest, not the saddest, but just like, oh man, we're so fucked if that's the case. And like, it's 1.1 tweets per day per person. And we're backing up each tweet that everyone tweets. 1.1 is the average number of tweets that a Twitterer tweets per day. I'm not on Twitter, by the way. And let's say we're backing it up 100 backups to the network, right? So every time someone tweets, that gets sharded out to our distributed hash table to the network just on that application, not on all of the Holochain applications, just for that application. And then everyone's doing their share of the workload, right? So that's 110 tweets that every day that someone's storing on their phone at 140 characters each. Okay, one tweet is about 568-bit bytes. Those bytes times the number of tweets in a day times the number of days in a year is like 22.5 million bytes per year. And that's a little less than a 24 megapixel phone. And that's, so like raise your hand if you would store 1 megapixel like picture on your phone to be able to operate on Twitter with like owning all of your own tweets and having access and not having it be like run by Twitter, right? So that's the accessibility piece of it. So for 1 year of use, that's one photo. Okay. And it's easy. This is like a light amount of work because you're only backing up 100 times. You're not backing up everyone on a blockchain. Everyone has to remember everything. It's just not the way reality works. So, yeah. Yeah, so this is just blah, blah, blah. It's really good, blah, blah, blah. And the caveat is tweets are small, right? P2P YouTube would need way more storage. But the example still stands as the P2P storage that you would have to do on a blockchain for something like YouTube is just impossible. Whereas here, it's just with Holochain, it would just be a matter of, do you have enough devices hooked up to that network that are storing and serving the data effectively? And if you do, then it works. So it becomes a possibility. So this efficiency is great, and this scalability is really fucking. I'm only gonna say it once each time. I'm gonna stop. The scalability is really cool. But the really exciting thing are the new capacities that Holochain creates. And one of the things that you can do with Holochain is you can remix several apps into one. We have a really loosely coupled user interface. So that means that the example would be putting ride sharing applications together. So let's say that there's a Lyft, an Uber, and then 2 different local co-ops that were built on Holochain for ride sharing in a city, right? And each one's got its own little quirks. And just like with Lyft and Uber, drivers drive for both, right? So now you could take a UI and you could bridge these apps together, build a meta UI, and then what you would have is, as a user, you'd be able to take your phone out and request a ride, and then you would get these different options that would come to you. It would bridge them all in. You'd be able to select the one you want. It would cancel the other ones, and then you'd be able to choose which ride through which provider. And the drivers similarly would have their own version of that to be able to offer rides to these different applications, to these different communities. So what we're doing is we're putting humans at the center. We're not putting corporations or data the center. We're putting the people at the center. And one of the important points about Holochain is that it's agent-centric. All of the information that comes out at any point is coming out from someone. This is the truth anywhere, period. Someone or something, right? It could be an IoT device asserting some truth. And the mistake is that we assume that we can make a global consensus, just like we assume that we can make a global consensus about reality, but we can't. Like every single human being lives in a different reality. And the thing is, we conform our realities to sync up with another's perception of what is and what isn't well enough that we can coordinate and communicate and play together, right? So Holochain is a technical infrastructure to facilitate apps to be built based on that kind of assumption. Does that make sense? Or does it just sound like blather? Where am I landing? This is like, I'm totally tracking you, dude. And I'm politely waiting for the next person to go. This would be really great feedback for me. Totally, be honest. Okay. Some people are afraid to be honest. I just assume you're down here. So some use cases are peer-to-peer social media, disaster relief coordination, supply chain coordination, P2P currency systems, crowdfunding platforms. Is Junto here? Junto? How is it pronounced? Okay, I'm so sorry. Junto. Shout out to Junto. Thank you so much for coming. Building a crowdfunding platform, right? I'm sorry. You.
Hi, Eric here. So we came across Holochain a little over a year ago and have been, moving into the space of decentralization. And Junto's a distributed social media, but it came from a deeper design philosophy of wanting to move beyond a lot of the restrictive social norms, addictive qualities, mental health concerns, privacy concerns. And so for us, we kind of take a more humanely designed approach in terms of no advertisements, no vanity metrics, no AI, that kind of reinforces those existing beliefs. And we build it on top of this distributed technology to provide people with ownership of their data. And it's not for profit as well. And we just actually hit our Kickstarter goal of 100 grand this morning. So it's exciting to be here. And thanks for the shout out. I wasn't expecting that.
And misidentifying your organization. All right, cool. So, and there's a handful of other really cool projects. Not a handful. There's more than a handful of other really cool projects building on Holochain right now. And then, okay, this is really important. How am I on time? Am I over? Too far over? 2 minutes. All right. I want to make a clear distinction what Holo is and what Holochain is. Okay. So Holo is a P2P web hosting marketplace. Amazon Web Service and Airbnb created a cool baby with a cool name, or maybe, called Holo, right? You're all supposed to be laughing at these jokes. And then, so Holo is a bridge to mainstream users for Holochain apps. You can build your app on Holochain, and I can only use that app if I'm running Holochain locally. But I want my mom, who is technologically severely illiterate, to be able to open up her browser and access Holochain apps. She doesn't need to know they're Holochain apps. They're just going to be running on Holochain on the back end, and she's going to have whatever normal user interface she's going to have, right? So, and this is also how you can get into serving more data than you could just deal with on your phone. This opens up the YouTube possibility. So Holo is that bridge to the mainstream. So Holo is the marketplace for that. So we did a Indiegogo campaign, and we raised a bunch of money, and we're making these cool hosting boxes that you can plug in, and they run Holo so that you can then provide service to this network. And then we have these all over the world, and eventually everyone will be able to just download Holochain on your computer, and you'll be able to run Holo on that and then provide service to this network so that we have a true cloud hosting, network around the world. And this solves 2 problems. So removes the barrier to mainstream use, and it subsidizes Holochain. We are not getting paid for making Holochain. It is an open source project. Holo is just an app, basically, on Holochain. And you don't need Holo in order to build an app on Holochain by any means. You just need it to bring it to the world on their browsers, web browsers. You can learn more at developer.holochain.org. That's the end of the slideshow. That's the display and color options on my computer. Thank you.